Today we read from Colossians chapter 1, 15 through 20. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers. All things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So of all days, I would think I'd be able to put down my phone. However, there are some stories today that I want to make sure that I get right. And some of them aren't personal stories, but I think that they go ahead and capture so well some of the things that I'm trying to get across. So let me start here. I think there is nothing that makes me cringe more than words that go something like this. I know what you need to do. If you just do that one thing with your children, they will start acting more normal and they'll start behaving when they're supposed to. In speaking those words, in one sentence, that person has told the parent of an autistic child that all they had to do was think about it for a minute and they got your child's life completely solved. The person is telling that parent of an autistic child that they couldn't possibly have come up with that solution themselves, even with the hours, days, weeks, months, or even years available to them to try to think of a way to help their child better. That person in the one sentence equated a difference in the brain and in the body to a one need, easy, quick change solution idea. That one person has told the parent of an autistic child that their child isn't normal, that they can't behave, and they don't do what you think they're supposed to do. It makes me cringe because what a powerful way to insult someone. But let's put that aside for a minute. And let's start to actually look at the heart of the matter. I'm going to repeat some words from Tracy Anderson. And these are the words that I really, really want to get right today, because I think she hits the nail on the head when she tells this story. Tracy Anderson said, I want to tell you a story, not of perfect parenting or easy answers, but of discovering that God's design for us is far more beautiful than we ever imagined. Even when the world cannot see it yet. Picture a little girl lying on a rooftop under a blanket of stars. While other children played together, she found peace in the silence, in the vastness of the night sky. She wasn't running away. She was searching for a place where her mind could finally rest. But inside, a storm raged. She felt so much but couldn't identify what any of it was. Every emotion, whether it was frustration, being overwhelmed, or loneliness, came out as either anger or sadness. Those were the only words she had. She didn't know about the ocean of emotions in between, and she often felt so misunderstood. When she fell and tore her Achilles tendon, she tried to run it off, not because she was brave, but because she couldn't feel what others felt. Her body spoke a different language. She pushed through sickness until she collapsed, knocked over a few drinks at dinner. She played too rough with her younger sister, not from carelessness, but from a nervous system that processed the world differently. To everyone watching, she seemed careless or clumsy, but the truth was no one knew yet what was really going on. The Bible tells us in 1 Samuel 16:7, the Lord does not look at things people look at. People look at outward appearances, but the Lord looks at the heart. This little girl had a big heart, but it was hidden beneath behaviors no one understood yet. As she grew, so did her strategies for survival. She watched others like a detective, memorizing scripts of how, quote unquote, normal people talked, laughed, connected. In call centers where she worked, she perfected her scripts. At work, she changed jobs when relationships felt too complicated. She built a mask so convincing that even she forgot what was underneath. Yet Psalms 139:14 reminds us of a deeper truth. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. To be fearfully made means God formed that little girl with care and intention. To be wonderfully made means he created her with a purpose. She was his design. That little girl was me, said Tracy Anderson. Well, Tracy describes life with autism this way. There are others who describe autistic life as a life with a brain on fire, or with a brain turned on intense mode. Sounds are never quiet, and they are louder than other sounds that the average person hears, and it is deafening. The sunlight that brings warmth and joy to so many others are like piercing arrows to the brain. The proximity of others may bring in an anxiety that is absolutely crippling. Large groups of people can cause an unnerving experience that some of us would describe like living in a horror film. Yet all of this makes us want to fix it. That's the natural reaction to something that seems broke, right? This is the desire of most people. There's no evidence to suggest that there's even a solution. Yet, this isn't a sickness where you can take an antibiotic to get better. This isn't a disease that you can go to the hospital for treatment. This is a life created by a brain being different, by the body being different, by the understanding of everything around you being different and being interpreted from a different perspective. This isn't something to be fixed, though. It's something that needs to be understood and accepted. For while all of this is going on, it isn't wrong. It doesn't need fixing. There needs to be an understanding that God made us all unique and different. God made us all in a way that allows us to understand the world and perceive it differently. While I could keep going on for some time, I want us to look at things a little differently. So with that, I have an example for us. I'll set this down for a minute. In my hand, I hold a US dollar. We all feel that this has worth. We can buy things with it. We can pay for services with it. If we have enough of them, we can buy influence with it. And in my other hand, I also hold a green piece of paper that I scribbled on this morning. Looks a little similar. The ones are in the right place. There's a face in the middle. It says it's worth $1. The backs are kind of similar too. But everyone sitting here knows that we consider this to have value. And this to be a little piece of paper that Pastor cut to the right size and drew on this morning. If I go and try and give this to the clerk down at the gas station, I'm not going to be able to get anything and walk out. If I give this to him, well, with prices these days, I need lots of these, but if I give this to him, I'm going to be able to walk out with something. Because we collectively have decided that this has value. But in reality, well, this may have a special ink with a special design made at a US Mint, and it may even be special paper. But paper, it is. Just like this is a piece of paper. We had to cut down a tree. But collectively, and I don't remember the exact year, but after we got off the gold and silver standards, that's literally what this is. It's a piece of paper. But it holds value. And this doesn't. So with that said, when you take that same concept and apply it to people, we tend to expect people to act in a certain way and react to things in a certain way and to do things in a certain way. Because those are the things that we collectively have decided make everyone successful. We expect them to say certain things and act in certain ways and to follow a path that is predictable to what we expect, all while exhibiting the best behavior of what we've described as the best behavior at all times. For truly, when someone does and says the right things at the right time in the right way, they can be successful. We expect everyone to be a circle that fits into a circular hole. All paper cut out to be the same way. Yet God didn't make us all circles. God made us all different. And all people are made in the image of God. This includes those with autism and those with disabilities. Yet those with disabilities, including autism, don't always fit the picture that we have in our head of how people are supposed to act. Reminds me of a story from when I was young. And I'll scroll past this right now so that I'll know where my place is when I'm done, because I know this story, because it's from my own life. When I was young, my mother used to like to do puzzles. She doesn't so much now, but she did at the time. But we didn't have a lot of money at the time. And so she'd go to garage sales to find her puzzles. So they're cheaper, obviously. Well, I was a kid, and I came in from playing one day, and there's my mother and my aunt discussing this puzzle. It's almost done, except for one piece. And the last piece in the box is not a piece for this puzzle, and it doesn't fit in the puzzle.
Oh, that's even worse.
And they were talking about how frustrating that was. And it was frustrating because all of the pieces didn't fit. This loops us back to the dream that we have for children. The dream that some in this country have labeled the American dream, but depending on what country you're in, it's the whatever dream. It's the Russian dream, or the Australian dream, or the Canadian dream, or the Brazilian dream. Pick a country. But when a child is presented and comes into the world, from the very beginning, they're pressed to succeed. They are expected to perform. They must be the best. They must be the fastest. They must be the most talented. They must be the smartest. They need to be the most athletic. They need to be the best looking. They need to strive for perfection. Because how else are they going to succeed in this life? How will they perform and go ahead and conform to that path laid out for them for success if they're not striving from day one to be the best of everything? While some are asking these questions, I have others. What if the child doesn't meet those criteria? What if the child, depending on the child, is not capable of putting together the pieces for the quote-unquote American dream? What if they think differently? What if they're missing a limb or all of their limbs? What if all of their limbs are there, but they don't work and they can't use them? What if the child can't see? What if the child can't hear? What if the child cannot talk? What if the child exhibits non-typical behaviors or actions? What if the child is unable to take care of themselves at all and will need to spend their entire lives requiring the same amount of care or even more care than a newborn baby would? What if that child is all grown up now and still doesn't conform to the picture of the puzzle that was laid out for all of us? What if the child has autism or the child has epilepsy? As much as we want to think otherwise, that child or that adult, if they're grown up, is shunned, or at least shunned in some way. Oh, don't get me wrong. There are many who are still nice to their face. There are those who generally love them anyways. Yet they don't fit in our puzzle. Or someone has failed to, quote unquote, failed in solving the perceived problem or problems. A solution wasn't found to help these children be quote unquote normal and to conform to the picture in the puzzle. There are those who might say that the children and their parents deserve our pity. So let me ask you, how do you feel about those disabled children and their families? Now remember, this is a question just for you to answer in your own head. So if no one else is going to know the answer yourself honestly. Here are some questions that might make some people uncomfortable. So as you all know, I have 3 autistic children who all show on different parts of the spectrum. 2 of those children have epilepsy. One of those is struggling to speak, or at least to communicate in the same way that each one of us does. Does my family deserve pity? Should I be doing something more to help my children be quote unquote normal? As a father of children with special needs, I could use my time in my life being angry. I could tell you about times when strangers tried to give us parenting advice for our quote unquote uncontrolled kids, or those who just snorted in derision and walked away. On the other hand, I could use my time to be happy. I could use my time to tell you of stories of acceptance and returned love. I could take my time and use it to discuss the wonderful people who have accepted and embraced my children with love. When they've embraced them with love, when my children have shown love to them, or more importantly, on bad days, when my children weren't very loving at all. Yet no matter how bad the rejection, and no matter how wonderful the acceptance was, my feelings are irrelevant. Yeah, I said it, my feelings are irrelevant. Although I fail at many times in life to do so, I try to gear my life and my thoughts and my ideas around what the Word of God says. That is why my feelings are irrelevant, because it doesn't matter how I feel about it. It matters what the Word of God says about it. If my feelings disagree, well, then I'm the one that's out of line, and I need to put my life back in order to get in line with the Word of God. So what does the Bible say about my special needs children and the many special needs children that are out there that might have some kind of a condition or a life that includes something that's considered a disability? So let's go back to one of the verses we read today at the very beginning. We read a few extra ones, but let's just look at Colossians 1:15 through 16. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. Did you hear that? All things were created for him and through him. That means the rocks and the grass and the trees and the air were all created for him and through him. The birds, the bears, the fish were all created for him and through him. This means you and I were created for him and through him. That means then that my special needs children and every child, regardless of perceived disability, was created for him and through him. God does not make mistakes. Thus, if all things were created for him and through him, and God does not make mistakes, then every one of us was created just as God intended us to be. I know the next question may be, if everyone was created for him and through him, then why would anyone be born with a condition that could be perceived as a disability? Let's look at some other verses. Let's look at John 9, 1 through 3. It says, as he went along, he saw a blind man from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Now, if we keep going, we would see this man was healed of his blindness. However, a healing does not need to take place for the glory of God to be seen. The person does not have to be made like everyone else for it to be a miracle of God. In Psalms 139, 13 through 14, we read, for it was you who formed my inward parts, who knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. We are all knit together by God. Each one of us is a miracle. Each one of us reveals the glory of God just by being here and living our everyday. Let me say that again, because I don't want anyone to miss it. We are all knit together by God. Each one of us is a miracle. Each one of us reveals the glory of God just by being here and living. If we were all made the way God intended, and we were all made that way to reveal the glory of God, then what is our disconnect with those with perceived disabilities? Why can't we understand? Why can't we all and everyone out there be more loving and accepting? The Father has learned to love, and I have had a life journey filled with love. I encourage others to love with me. Let us not only love those in the community that have disabilities. Let us love those who come against us. For God has instructed us to love. Matthew 22, 37 through 39 says, he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all of your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. We were all encouraged to love others as ourselves. So let us do that and not try to impose standards that may not imply or apply to those with disabilities. The dollar we talked about has value because it has certain characteristics, and we agreed upon it. It is time that we treat those with disabilities with love and respect and stop trying to put them in a box that doesn't fit and isn't how God intended things to be. Success and the success of our children isn't actually determined by some of the things we thought it was. or the things that we're taught that define success. The real problem has never been those with disabilities. The real problem has been with how we define success. So let's start defining it in God's way and not man's way. As our Father in heaven has taught us and taught us to love, let us love all of God's children with our whole heart. Because the true measure of success isn't the list of things that we've been saying and we've been told are success. The true measure of success is love. We are successful when we love. So let's love. Let it be so, and let us stay in the Word.